welcome to Stole My Line, an evening Fireside film podcast with Grant
and Drew.
This is our first episode, so hopefully you enjoy it. You're along for the ride.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. So, start us off, just a little intro about this podcast. I think it would be good to do. This started because we both love movies, which I don't know. Do you have any comments on that?
No.
Okay, cool. We both love gosh.
We do both love movies. It's true.
We do. So
in fact, that's probably all we talk about.
Yeah, I say that's probably the number one.
It's like 80% of our conversation is movie,
which is good. We've watched movies together probably since middle school.
Yeah.
And I think the reason we wanted to do a podcast is because, well, most people aren't as into movies as we are, but we also aren't filmmakers right now.
Right now is the key word in that sentence.
Anyway, we're not filmmakers right now. We know enough to make a podcast, so thanks for tuning in. But we did feel like we could bridge the gap a little bit between, hey, I'm just an average moviegoer, I don't know much about movies, and then like the film world.
I feel like we're in between Steven Spielberg and like the guy who works at the gas station.
We're somewhere
in between them.
That range.
I'm not going to tell you where, but we are in between.
You can decide for yourself where we are. But we have a lot of opinions, a lot of thoughts on movies.
True.
I think we have decent taste. We watch a lot. We don't just watch Christopher Nolan, although we do watch Christopher Nolan.
I just finished Memento.
And it was incredible.
It was incredible. I gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd.
That will be another podcast later down the road. But yeah, so we watch a lot. I mean, we'll go all the way from Kurosawa to Tarantino and everywhere in between, which might not be that far between. That might not be a good example, but let's intro the film we're actually talking about today.
Yeah, we should.
And kind of the reason we're doing this podcast is because we went and saw Get Her Back, an A24 movie.
It's true.
In theaters.
By Dan and Michael Philippou, who did Talk to Me Previously. There's a mosquito. Who did Talk to Me Previously, and now they did this movie, Bring Her Back.
And I think there's a Talk to Me 2 in the works. I think that's a thing, right?
I've seen that, but I don't know. I don't know if they've said that.
Jury's out on that. We'll see if that's a thing. I think it was greenlit. Who knows? But
I don't know where you would go from there other than just doing it again, but that's another discussion.
I don't know. We'll see if they make another Talk to Me. But I think a little backstory is, so I'm not a horror guy.
I was going to mention this if you weren't going to mention this.
I like horror movies, and I've seen a handful. But it's not my cup of tea, especially like at a movie theater. I'll sometimes watch them just like on my phone, and then I can just like put the phone away when there's a scary scene.
Flip it on a pillow when you're like...
Yeah. But when I'm in a theater, I'm like locked in, and I also paid money for it, so I feel like I have to like, watch the movie. So we went and saw... You were like, hey, let's go see Talk to Me, right when it came out. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know anything about it besides it was a horror movie and had really good reviews. Whatever. So I go, and I hated the experience of watching it. I watched basically the whole second half of the movie through my hands, like through my fingers. And ended up really enjoying the movie in retrospect, but did not enjoy the experience of watching the movie.
So then 2 years later, I text him, I'm like, hey, yo, you want to go see Bring Her Back? It's by the same guys who did Talk to Me.
And
for some reason you said yes.
Well, I gave us other options, like we could go see Life with Chuck or, Materialist. And then you were like, I don't care. And then I was like, all right, we're going to go see Get Her Back.
That's not what I said. I said, these are my 3 options. I ranked them. I did put Bring Her Back at the top. Then I said, you pick.
I picked Get Her Back. We are digressing. We watched the movie. And so I think we're going to start out with usually we would start out with a mailbag, but this is our first episode, so no mailbag today. We're going to start out with like an overview of what the movie is. The first section is going to be spoiler free. And then we're going to do our, spoiler free thoughts. Like, hey, generally we felt this about the movie. And then we're going to go into some spoiler stuff in our review. Then we have a system for reviewing that we will overview and then do.
And
then we'll tell you what we're going to review next week, and you can watch it, and then watch our podcast, or listen to our podcast.
And then tell us what you think of the movie.
And send in stuff on the mailbag on our email that doesn't exist yet.
But it will.
It will. But yeah, so get her back. Do you want to do an overview of the movie?
I can do an overview. So basically, it's about a brother and a sister, and the sister is partially blind, and their dad dies, so then they get put into foster care, and they end up at, what's her name in the movie?
I don't remember. A lady's house?
Played by Sally Hawkins.
Yes.
And they rock up, and things are like instantly creepy, and then
I'd say let's cut it there.
Things just kind of get darker from there.
And, I mean, we'll have to get into spoilers, but I would say that's a pretty good description. I said it's solid.
Yeah.
Hit me with your spoiler-free thoughts, like positive to negative range.
Okay. Yeah. I liked it better than Talk to Me.
Okay.
And I really like Talk to Me.
Okay.
I think it pulled on my heartstrings, because I have a sister.
Okay.
So like there was definitely that for me that was like,
okay.
I related to the big brother character a lot, and I think it was emotionally more intense than Talk to Me was. I think Talk to Me had its moments for sure, but I think it was just like a through line of emotional intensity that I think was handled really well.
Okay. I like that, and I'm glad I heard your perspective on it, because I don't have a sister. I do have two brothers, but it's not the same thing for me.
Sure.
So that would make sense why you maybe resonate more with the character. I also, quick timeout on the podcast, Sally Hawkins plays Laura. That's the lady's name of the house they go to. So anyway,
should I pull up my IMDb right now?
Yeah, I have just Google opened up right now. So my opinion on it was, I was a little bit of a mixed bag, especially in the moment. The vibe of the movie is very negative. It's a horror movie, but some horror movies, like you watch The Conjuring and it ends happy, right? Like
it's not a happy ending.
It is not. This is not for the faint of heart. If you want like a good ending, this is not it. So I'll kind of dig into that more when we get into the spoiler section. But I think I was very positive on the filmmaking and the storytelling.
Sure.
The story was not for me, and we'll get into why later, but I think I sit more on the positive end. I do.
Okay.
I think it's one of the better horror movies. I think the Philippous are better, which we might be saying that wrong, sorry, but they are some of the better filmmakers out there right now. I think
in the horror genre.
Yeah. And
for sure.
We might do a Talk to Me review later, but I was a big fan of Talk to Me, and we'll get into this in the spoiler section. Again, filmmaking, their practical effects are incredible.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple scenes in this movie that were absolutely wild.
Yeah, like honestly made me like, I mean, it was disgusting.
I look over at Grant, he's like cringing.
Yeah,
and, like,
It's,
can't see.
It's like really hard to watch, and that's like, I think obviously the effect they're trying to do, so it worked. So overall positive, even though the experience is not my favorite.
Sure.
So yeah, that's all I've got. Also, obviously this is a first time watch for both of us.
It's true.
Sometimes we'll review movies that we've seen before and we're rewatching, so we'll tell you if we're doing that. So I think, do we want to go into just a general spoiler warning as we dig into the movie?
Yes, I think if you care about seeing this movie and not having spoilers,
stop.
Now is the time to stop watching.
Keep watching our podcast.
Yes. Because Brad Pitt will be sitting there one day.
One day. It might be 10 years from now.
It's one day.
We'll see. But yeah, so big spoiler warning. If you want to see Get Her Back, you don't want spoilers, stop the podcast, come back. We have a lot of thoughts. So I think the way we've structured this for this very first episode of Stole My Line is we're going to do what we liked first. And I know we kind of dug into that a little bit, but Drew, hit me with what you liked. You can go as specific as you want to.
I liked that Billy died.
Okay.
I think that's his name, right? I think
so. It's Andy.
And he's played by Billy.
Okay,
that's
cool.
crazy. I like that he died. I think a lot of times people are afraid to kill off their main character, and I like that he died.
Okay.
Just for the fact that it was like a gutsy play from the writers and directors.
Okay.
And then I loved Laura as a character. I thought she was horrible. I thought she was super manipulative, and like it just made you hate her.
Yeah.
And like I remember thinking, with a third left of the movie, I was like, if I were the brother, I would destroy Laura.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought the way she manipulated everyone involved, I thought was so well written. And I think something that I wish was like touched on more, I think her motivation was purely motivated by grief. Like that was her thing. I don't think that was like, I wish they had dove into that more, and I don't even know how. I wish
you just kind of wish you had more from that.
I wish I had more like emotional turmoil from Laura.
Okay.
Like I think it was established that she lost her daughter and that she was grieving that, and then through the movie there was lots like she was watching the VHS and whatever. But it was just kind of like she was manipulative and evil because her daughter died and she wanted to get her back, and that was it.
Yeah. And then the end of the movie is she ends up not, well, the mechanics we can get into, but she is going to try to kill, which the character's name is Piper,
yeah.
She's going to try to kill Piper, who's this, blind sister of Andy, who they're in this foster system. They're living with Laura. And she's going to try to kill Piper and put her daughter, whose name is Kathy.
Yes.
Put Kathy, her spirit, into Piper's body. And she ends up not doing that. She ends up choosing not to. Which feels like a little bit of a bait and switch. I would maybe say, like, you go this whole movie and, like, Laura is doing horrible things.
I agree.
For like 2 hours, and then at the very end, she's like, no. And I don't think it was too far out of left field. Like, dude, why'd she just, like, switch up at the end? Like, it kind of does this flashback scene where, Piper says, Mom, like Mom, stop kind of thing. And Laura gets a flashback of Kathy calling Mom when she was in distress. And it kind of snaps her out of this whole thing. And so that was a little abrupt for me. We just went really deep into spoiler territory, so I hope you've seen this movie.
I don't even know if do we give like an official spoiler warning?
Yeah, we did. So yeah, I'm going to say some stuff I liked. I loved the casting. I think the casting was perfect. I think every single person casted was perfect.
Killed it.
Yeah, I mean, I like Billy Barrett a lot. I think he did, like, he really carries the movie. And then, I mean, Sora Wong as Piper was great. Sally Hawkins, like, obviously also carries the movie. I think Billy Barrett was a little maybe unsung because I'm sure Sally Hawkins is like the star. When people watch this movie, they think, oh my gosh, Sally Hawkins gave this incredible performance. But then Billy is like, let's see how old this guy is. I mean, he's not that old. Born in 2006 or 7.
So we're older than him.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm older than him.
This guy is like, I mean, it's 2025 now. This guy is, maybe 19, like about our age. Does an incredible job, honestly, kind of combating Sally Hawkins, like a very experienced actor. So I think the casting was great. Obviously, filmmaking, the practical effects were just gross. When Oliver is eating the table.
And the knife, bro.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's eating a table on a knife.
Me?
And oh my gosh, it's disgusting.
It's crazy.
And this is something, when I was watching the movie about halfway through, or really maybe like 10 minutes in, I was kind of like, oh my gosh. I was remembering watching Talk to Me, and I was like, I remembered all the horrible, gross practical effects in Talk to Me. And I remember the scene of the sucking of the foot in Talk to Me. All of that stuff.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, all this stuff came to my mind, and then I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to watch some gross stuff in this movie. I just knew. I was like, I'm just about to see the grossest things, and I did. But I think it was incredibly well done. Like, it looks real. It does not look fake whatsoever. So I'd say that, and I do think that the story is more emotional than Talk to Me. And that was something that I wasn't really thinking about much until you brought that up. I think that was great. So do you have any more positives or closing thoughts on that kind of overall section?
I got one more thing that I just thought of. I think the Philippou brothers are really good at, maybe better than any horror that I've watched, better at like having an emotional tie to like the horror elements, be that good or bad. I don't think they stick the landing every time, but I do think that they're very good at tying those things together, and it's not horror just for the sake of horror.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I don't have any more positive thoughts, even though I'm sure some will come to mind. Do you mind if we go into the negatives or some critiques we might have at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. This is one thing. I think the story was too negative for my taste.
Okay.
The story is very, very sad.
Yeah, it is.
And there's very, very little redeeming qualities. And I didn't love that they killed off Andy, more just because my hopes were that Andy didn't die. But also because I don't think they fleshed out Piper enough for me to want to attach myself to her as a main character.
I think that's a good point.
I watched about an hour and a half of Andy being the main character, and then he abruptly dies and like gets drowned. And then I'm sitting there like, okay, I guess Piper's the main character now, but we've watched her get like kind of seduced by Laura the whole movie. So I don't have much like, obviously I want her to live. She's innocent. You want her to survive. But I don't have much attachment to her as like a protagonist. So for her to become the protagonist, when she's also so just weak physically because she's blind, it was kind of hard for me to make that shift. So that's why I didn't like the choice to kill Andy. That was my personal opinion. I still think it was a bold choice, and the movie was more interesting because of that. The other thing I didn't love, I did not love that the mechanic of the ritual was not fully fleshed out, if that makes sense.
There was a lot of unanswered questions.
Talk to Me was very, very tight.
It was very tight. And it's just simple in general.
Yes, like you knew how Talk to Me worked, and then the whole movie of Talk to Me is built around the mechanic, and that's how the movie ends, is the mechanic.
Yeah, sure.
Like that's like the ending of the whole movie. So it's very tight, very like there's not a lot of loose ends with that. This is very much show don't tell, which I think is great, but also for a mechanic that was more complex than the Talk to Me one, I was trying to piece together the whole movie of like, wait, how does this work? I guess so. I'm the way I perceived it was, someone dies, and then you hypnotize some kind of third person. So that's Oliver in this case, and then Oliver eats the dead body of the person that died, and Laura kept Kathy, her daughter, in this freezer,
which was terrible,
which is gross,
so bad.
So Oliver is eating at least like the eyes and stuff of this dead body, then goes to the spot that the person died in, which has to be in this like circle of white paint, and then takes a bite or whatever out of this new person, this new host for the spirit that died. It kind of becomes like a bridge, and then the new spirit goes into that body. Am I right in saying that?
I have no idea. I had no idea how it worked, the whole movie.
That's kind of how I understood it. I could be wrong, honestly. And the thing about this movie is it's not fully built around the mechanic like Talk to Me was, so maybe that's why it doesn't matter as much. But I also was trying to solve the puzzle the whole time. So I don't know your thoughts on that, but that was a critique I had of, like, I feel like it wasn't very, like, set in stone of how this mechanic worked.
I completely agree with that. But I don't know if it necessarily matters to some extent. I feel like, I agree when you said Talk to Me, it was driven by the mechanic. I completely agree. So I think in that one, it matters more how it works. But this one felt like, I don't think it necessarily matters how it worked because Laura never succeeded.
That's true.
Like, Laura never succeeded in carrying out the mechanic. And I think it was more driven by the emotion of it. And I think my biggest negative critique would be, like, I mean, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but like Laura, like, I think if there was lots of emotional turmoil that we saw in Laura, and we saw her wrestle with like the things she was doing and all the things, and then Piper said mom and she like had that flashback, I would be like, okay, like, we saw her wrestle, and now
there was very little
she's
progression.
accepted, but it was like instant in the pool. She's like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna keep carrying out this terrible thing to this girl. And then the cops show up.
It's like she goes from killing, I guess, a former coworker and a friend of hers.
like she took the levels up significantly when she killed,
and then like
the coworker and
then Andy is like dying, and she drowned him.
Yeah.
Like she physically drowns him.
Yeah.
Which is horrible. And all of that just to be like, oh, you can live. I guess she kind of accepted her fate. Like, she was going to die. She was wounded. It was kind of, maybe she knew, like...
Oh, that scene was insane, too.
Either way, she was going to go be with Laura, or not Laura, going to go be with Kathy. So maybe there's a little bit of that in her mind, but it wasn't super touched upon. It was just kind of like, she said no, and then she ends up dying holding this decaying body of her daughter in the pool. And it's just a really cool shot, really sad scene, so...
And I think... I don't know, like, I like grief being her driving factor of, like, why she was doing all these things. I think I love that concept, but again, it just wasn't touched upon enough.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I think the conceptual skeleton there is really solid and good and interesting.
Yeah, and I still think the movie succeeds overall. Like, it's definitely a success in what it was trying to accomplish.
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
We're getting nitpicky, honestly. It's not like we have crazy critiques. Like, these are things that we would have preferred to be differently, but I still think we see that the vision of the directors was fulfilled through the story and through the movie. So, do you have any other critiques or anything off the dome that you want to address about the movie?
I don't think so.
I think I'm good too. If you want to move into where we would review it and where we would rank it in our kind of tiers, I think this is interesting. So for our viewers or listeners, we are not going to do a 4 out of 5 stars or, scale 1 to 10 rating. We came up with our own rating system that might be a little more applicable to what you should actually do with this movie. So do you want to kind of go over our tiers from, like, because we have tier 1 to tier 5, tier 1 being the highest, tier 5 being the lowest, but each tier has, like, an attribute we associate with it. So do you want to go over those?
Yes. So, tier 5, should that be the lowest or the highest?
I think tier 1, maybe.
I don't know.
Highest tier.
Highest tier.
Start with highest tier.
Actually, that's kind of funny.
Okay.
Highest tier is, you should own a steelbook of this movie. You should buy the top.
Yes.
The quality.
Yes.
This is the Shawshank Redemption of tiers.
Yes. This is the greatest movies of all time. That's the tier.
Tier 2 is...
Which I'm going to call second highest tier.
Yeah, second highest tier. You should watch it in theaters. You should pay $20, go see this movie. Well, it's probably out of theaters by now, but
you should go. Yeah, like if it's in theaters, go see it on a big screen.
For sure.
Then middle tier.
You should watch this movie on streaming. And then
second lowest
tier is, you can maybe find it on Tubi, and if you do, watch it.
Yeah, like if it's free. It's not like free, the worst watch.
If you're at a friend's house and they've fallen asleep and put it on, like, don't turn it off.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And then
I don't know.
This is my personal favorite tier.
This is also my personal favorite
lowest tier.
You came up
I can
with it,
read
you
this
can say
one.
it, yeah.
This tier is, even if you see this DVD at a thrift store for 99 cents, leave it there.
It's not worth it.
It's just not worth it.
It is a waste of your time.
It's a waste of time. Even the 99 cents, the pocket change you have, just don't. Just don't. So I have where I think this is going to land for me. I don't know. Do you have it locked up, or do you want me to go first?
I have it locked up.
Okay. I'll let you go first.
I'm saying second highest tier. I think you should watch it in the theater.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go middle tier.
I thought, okay.
You should watch this movie on streaming. I still think it's a worthwhile watch. I think this watch would maybe be a little more fun. I'm watching horror movies with friends is kind of the vibe anyway. So if you watch this with a group of people late night, could be fun. That's kind of my review of it. I still think overall positive, though, if you have the average of our tiers.
Yeah, I think it's a solid 78.
Sure. We're not going to put a very specific number on it, but it's generally positive, I'd say. Like, worth a watch if you have time, especially if you're interested in the A24 Philippou horror genre.
If you're into the A24 horror genre, you definitely should watch it.
Yes, this is right up your alley if you're into that. And
it is very horror.
It's also a decent, if this is your first time into that genre, it's not a bad way to experience that genre either. I would say.
I agree.
Now, we're going into concluding thoughts now. This is something that I've been thinking about this whole podcast. I think this movie is tainted by Talk to Me. I think I was comparing it to Talk to Me the whole time. And I think that was actually a negative experience for me. because I did really enjoy Talk to Me. And, I mentioned how the mechanic this time around was less tight than Talk to Me's, or I think Talk to Me was kind of more enjoyable because some of the scenes were really fun. Even though that movie kind of ends sad too. I think I was comparing it a lot to that movie, and so that might have brought this movie down, or just, I don't know, it's like I kind of need a better palate cleanser between those movies, and I didn't do a good job of that. So that's a thought I had. Maybe I should try this movie again and try to kind of see it as its own thing. It's hard to when the filmmakers are the same, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on something like that?
I think I'm going to take back what I said at the beginning of it's better than Talk to Me. I need to rewatch Talk to Me. I haven't seen it in a long time. I do think it's a more emotionally engaging.
Yes.
Which I appreciated.
Yes.
And not to say Talk to Me wasn't. I think Talk to Me was, but it felt more fun.
Yeah, Talk to Me had those really, really fun scenes.
Yeah.
Where the music, everybody knew that song. It blew up on social media, and honestly, those scenes looks like the filmmakers had a lot of fun making those scenes. This whole vibe,
movie is not fun.
No, it's a lot more mellow, a lot more sad. I don't even want to say mournful, but kind of a little bit more reminiscent on the dead, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
This movie's all about grief, so it's I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
But I did like that it was emotionally heavy, honestly. I think I like that about the movie.
Agreed. So, would you have any other concluding thoughts?
No.
Okay. I'm kind of good on concluding thoughts. I think just a little look ahead for what this podcast...
Should we reveal the next movie?
I think we should.
So, the podcast is called Stole My Line. And I think we've talked about a long time Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's story of making the movie Good Will Hunting. They're a bunch of 20-year-olds, and they miraculously get Robin Williams. He loves the script, and they make this movie, and then they win an Oscar 20. So I think we've had dreams of being filmmakers, so it's that is the story that's super inspiring. And in that movie, Robin Williams has this line at the very end of the movie. It's he stole my line when he's at the door and he gets the letter from Will.
Yeah.
So,
which kind of spoilers.
It is kind of a spoiler.
It's out of context. So if you haven't seen Good Will Hunting, that movie is 25 years old. So
that's on you.
But if you have or haven't seen it, or maybe you just haven't seen it in a long time, go watch it this week, because next week we'll be reviewing Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting.
And I'm very excited. I haven't seen it in probably 6 to 8 months. I watch it every now and then because it is a really, really incredible movie.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
But we would love for you to see it. We have an email now. We don't know what it is in this current recording moment, but we have an email.
We'll put it in the description.
So please email that email if you have thoughts or questions that you want us to react to for Good Will Hunting. And then a greater thing too is that we want to we're gonna make a plan. Basically, we want this to be a weekly watch thing of we'll review new movies that come out, whether you should watch them or not, but also we have a weekly watch series. So every week you watch a decent movie and we review it and we talk about it, and
we'll tell you the week before so you can watch it and then come back and hear us talk about it.
Yeah.
And you send in questions, preferably before.
Yes.
So that it can almost be a dialogue of us and y'all.
Yeah. And also if maybe you're just interested in watching a movie, hopefully one day we'll have a catalog of let's say you're curious about Inception. I haven't ever seen Inception. Is it good? Well, you'll look up, Stole My Line, Inception, and that podcast will pop up, and you can listen to the first, 15-ish minutes, whatever, that we do general overview and review of how we felt about Inception. And then when you watch the movie and you're super confused about everything, you listen to the rest of our podcast where we explain all the details and our thoughts on it and answer more questions and stuff. So, and then the final thing I'll say, I'm sorry I'm going a little long right now,
You're
but
good.
Hypothetically we might have an Instagram at this time. Please follow the Stole My Line Instagram. We're gonna kind of post monthly or maybe even yearly watch plans that, hey, this is what I'm watching this week. This is the movie I'm watching this week. I want to watch good films. And then you just watch that. You can, catch up to speed with what we're watching right now. So even if you're a few years late or a few weeks late, still pretty easy to catch up. So that's our goal. Hopefully this exists. If not, this will just be floating in the internet void. So this is a waste of words, but hopefully it exists. So
yeah.
Awesome. Well, do you have any closing remarks, Drew?
I don't think I do.
Okay, well, since there are no closing remarks, thank you for enduring our first ever Stole My Line podcast. I hope that you enjoyed it.
I hope you, yeah. Give us your feedback.
Yes. Please leave us a good review. Hypothetically 4 to 5 stars. And if you leave us a bad review, we can't really do anything about it, but we would like the good ones.
You should lie. If you don't like it, lie. I mean, don't lie. You shouldn't lie.
Well, surely you have a friend that likes it. Anyway.
If you don't like it, don't say anything.
Yes. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I'm Grant.
I'm Drew.
With Stole My Line, and we'll see you next week. Take it easy.